Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. Today, my guest is the wonderful Sheena Bhattessa, actress, producer, founder of Citizen Femme, hotelier, host of Passport 2, and basically someone who probably knows more than I do about travel and loves talking about hotels as much as I do. You started Citizen Femme, and it is the most amazing online destination platform created by women for women who travel in style. I cannot wait to hear your travel secrets. Welcome, lovely Sheena.
Thank you so much for having me in this gorgeous location.
Yes, the Peninsula Hotel. This is the Napier Railton Room. And it's so on brand because of the travel and the automotive. And yeah, we love being in here. It's really cozy. It's great.
It's a wonderful spot. It's lovely to be on. Thank you so much for asking me.
Before we get into your travel secrets, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how travel has impacted the person that you have become.
Everything and anything I've ever done has involved travel. I mean, my family are in the hotel business, so I've grown up understanding and knowing travel. For me, hotels has just been integral to us as a family because I've grown up walking into a lobby, knowing the housekeeping staff, walking to a restaurant, running around, behind the reception desk. So understanding hotels and travel has just been part of my life. And also my parents would take us traveling a lot. I'm also the youngest by far of 3 siblings. So my siblings were older, they were off university, and my parents would take me rather, driving around Europe. That was a really big part of it. So we would go in cars, road trips, drive to France, drive through Geneva, Switzerland, Italy. We would do so much driving. And that for me was, I think, the biggest education. So it's always just been a huge part of who I am. And with that just comes storytelling.
Absolutely.
Which is what I love so much. And I guess that's what I've imbued in everything that I do now. But I've just grown up in it.
I grew up in hotels. I lived in Switzerland. I worked before I had my business at the Savoy Hotel. And I think you come from a very different place when you actually know how a hotel works and what they're looking for.
It's a business ultimately.
Yeah.
And you understand that you need bums and beds and all of that. But actually it's glorious. It's so creative. It's so fun. You get to create ideas, what makes a guest stay wonderful and welcoming and warm. And actually, I don't think, much like when I watch a film, I don't sit and relax and watch a film. I'm actually going and staying in a hotel and going, well, how about this? Or look at that napkin. You don't look at it the same way, or you certainly appreciate all those details that other hotels put into their hospitality offering.
And you do the PR for your hotel in Marylebone, don't you?
I do. I'm involved in the creative side of it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. It's so much fun.
And as an actress, you obviously travelled a lot for that, and you did some Indian films, even though you don't speak Hindi. Is that right?
I do speak Hindi. Well, I didn't.
You do?
My mother tongue is Gujarati,
right,
which I speak fluently. Hindi is an offshoot. They're both, of course, Sanskrit-based. So I learned it for the first film I did. So many Bollywood productions come to London because of tax breaks. So that's why there's a huge amount always filmed in the UK. And so many years ago when I started, there weren't that many Indian girls who were able to deliver, I guess. Now it's very, very different. It's much more open. It's much more acceptable, actually, I think, to actually become an actor, which is why there's a lot more talented Indian actresses out there or available to cast. So I traveled a lot with acting.
When you say Bollywood, can you dance Bollywood and sing as well?
I can, but definitely please don't
I'm not going to ask you
that now.
Not at 5.5 months pregnant. I promise you I won't do that to you.
There'd be a lot more wobble. I would do it. Yeah. It's so much fun. They're crazy, mad productions of like hundreds of people. They're so much fun. I mean, I'm not sure I'd do any more of them, but they're very differently organized to Western productions. But yeah, I did it all.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's get into your travel secrets. What is the number one destination that you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime?
I think it has to be India. It is just the one place in the world where you will get absolutely everything. If food is your thing, culture, history is immense. Fashion, well-being for sure. Yoga, wellness, Ayurveda, anything. You want to ski, you want to beach, you want to revive yourself, meditate, you want to go crazy and go to Goa, you want to go to the Kumbh Mela. It really is just the one place that offers absolutely everything. I have not done nearly enough of India. My parents are actually from Africa, not India.
Right.
But from the little that I have done, it is the one place you just come away grounded, yet swept away. And it's an entire attack on the senses. I can't wait to take my kids there. I mean, they're still really, really little, but in the next couple of years, I think it's really important for them to just see this world of ultimately where we've come from.
Yeah. My sister got married in India, in the Himalayas, and it was the most magical place. I mean, it was 3 days. It was one of those crazy long weddings, but it really was very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
And I remember arriving in my Western clothes, and she had been shopping, and she had this amazing sari for me. In fact, 3. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to feel really uncomfortable. And it was the most beautiful thing to wear. I've never worn it since, but really, really was magical.
It's just an entire celebration. I mean, there's thousands of religions, thousands of languages. Every day's a holiday and some sort of festival. You go through the streets, it's parades, and like I said, it's an attack on the senses. Yeah. But it's just such a brilliant place.
And on Citizen Femme, you do so many amazing, like in-depth travel secrets, really, of where to go and what to do. Have you done India? Have you done bits on India?
We have. Not enough. And again, I don't think I could write enough because I'm not enough of an expert. But something that we make sure is that whoever is writing is the expert.
Yeah,
and I don't want someone who's going on a holiday to write about it, because ultimately you're going as a tourist. So yes, we do. There's a lot more. I mean, it's vast. There's a lot more to cover.
Well, when you've had your next baby, I'm sure that you will be taking them all. And then you'll be writing firsthand on where to go with the child. And
I think
haven't you just launched Citizen Enfant?
We have.
Tell us quickly about that. That's not one of the travel secrets, but that's really interesting.
So I love travel so much. And I actually pick my travels based on the hotel instead of a destination. And I didn't want to compromise on where I stay, the beauty, the luxury, the experience with children. And I think hotels are really adapting to families now. And it's not necessarily just screaming children all-inclusives, although those have changed as well. And they're much more luxurious and welcoming. So I actually started that column when I was pregnant with my first child, because I thought, where do I go to find a beautiful place that's going to welcome me? And my child is inevitably going to throw a spoon off the table and scream and shout and run around and do God knows what without being embarrassed. And they're going, don't worry, come along. Yeah. And that's when I started that column. And actually, it's proving to be so popular because so many parents, and I like to think that women and mums generally make most of the decisions when it comes to everything, but mainly travel. So it's proving to be really popular because they're going, where do I stay? You ask a friend usually, or you ask a fellow mum, where can I go with my kids? Yeah. And here we've got all these brilliant mums saying, actually, this is great. And we went to the Chedi Andermatt.
Oh, yes.
It's not a family hotel, but they were just so brilliant at welcoming my raucous daughter, who was running rampant around the hotel. And she was literally going behind the reception desk and everything. And they were
wonderful.
They were so wonderful.
Is that your 3-year-old?
At the time, she was 1.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, has she learnt to ski? But no, not at 1.
No.
I know 3,
not yet.
3's quite a young age to start.
So I haven't taken them skiing yet.
Funny. So what is your most unexpected travel experience?
They're all unexpected. But I think the one that had the most impact, and I talk about the most often, would be the Maasai Mara. Have you ever been?
No, I haven't. And I long to go.
It's incredible. A safari itself is obviously it's always like a bucket list trip or something like that. I did it when I was very young because my parents are from Kenya. But I never lived there. My family did. I was born here. So it was a kind of a distant memory, but I went a few years back. We were landed in Nairobi, and then you go to the Maasai Mara. You're welcomed by the Maasai. So the safari itself, you do the sunrise safari, the sunset safari, which is incredible. But I guess the one that has stuck with me the most and actually moved me was when you go to the village. There may be an element that it's kind of a staged part of a tourist thing, but it was very novel for me. And I highly encourage people to do that because you just go into their world, you see where they live, you see where they're cooking, where they're washing. They have a shopping village, which is set up for visitors, but it's also their livelihood. And it was it was sensational because you're speaking to them. My first ever language was Swahili before I spoke English. So I had little bits of elements of there. And I was, I spoke to a little bit to some of them, and you go into it's grounding.
Yeah.
It's so wonderfully grounding. And, you go back home and you are grateful for everything you have.
Absolutely.
Even if it is set up for their livelihood, but it's incredible.
Did you do a flying safari as well?
No, I didn't.
Because that's how I always think of the Maasai Mara, with like out of Africa.
Like the hot air balloon?
Or a little plane like Robert Redford, when he takes
you go on the little plane to get there.
Yeah.
And then they welcome you. But then, no, it was like mini Range Rovers.
Wonderful.
Safari trucks. Incredible. Blew
That
me away.
Definitely is on my bucket list. And safaris, as you say, are always incredible, getting up early and then doing the sunrise and the sunset tours. But I think the Maasai Mara must be an amazing place to
sensational. Even the tents that you stay in, you hear in the night noises because there's hippopotamuses like swimming outside.
Yeah.
It's sensational.
You might have to wait till your kids are a little bit older before you take
the
them.
vultures pick them up and fly away with them.
That looks quite an interesting little
monkey
there.
I might just
Actually, when David Gandy was on the podcast, he was so interesting because he said, they say don't move on the Land Rovers or whatever it is because the lions might come for you. And he said, but then at 6 o'clock in the same place, they get the table out and you
sit and have dinner and drinks.
And it's like, lions not interested after 6 o'clock. Then it is
they're
really
not champagne lovers.
quite a funny thing. I hadn't thought of that before. I was like, oh yes, that is quite an interesting angle. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. Let's go on to the next travel secret. What is the most overrated or underrated? It's a very difficult question because people don't want to say, but you can do the other way. You can do...
I have an overrated.
Let's have an overrated.
It's not travel, it's food.
Okay.
I had forever wanted to go to this one particular restaurant. I really hope it's not a client of yours, so apologies in advance if it is. But it's the Fat Duck.
Oh, yes.
Have you been?
Yes.
It was hilarious because the best part of that meal was the burger we had after.
Literally after?
Yeah.
Because you were so hungry?
It was shocking. That was the most overrated experience. I mean, it's something that you book months in advance.
Absolutely.
It's a celebration. It's an occasion. You're excited, dressed up. You book a weekend away. I mean, it was fantastic. But it was just the most poncy. And I used to love fine dining, and I'm okay with it now. I mean, like celebration meals for me now are like cheat meals, as opposed to going for like a pea on a plate. But it's, it was a seashell with a foam. And I'm like, can I have some more bread, please? Because this is
not going to do it for me.
I think it was the theme was remembering your childhood. And it just felt like an indulgent science experiment, quite frankly.
Was Heston there when you went?
No, he wasn't. I don't think so. He didn't
come out.
He didn't appear.
He probably heard you saying, this is a load of nonsense.
Is the bread? Can we have... I think we filled ourselves up on bread and alcohol. That is, without a doubt, the most overrated experience I've ever had.
That's so interesting, isn't it? And Tom
he had
Parker
a London
Bowles,
here, which I loved.
At dinner.
Yes, that was excellent because it was proper food. Yeah. It was fun, but proper food. There was creativity, but tasty food.
And actually, the meat fruit. Did you have that? Which was like the mandarin, and then inside
so it plays with your mind, but it's clever,
beautiful as well, and actually substantial.
Yeah, exactly. This was, here's a shell. Listen to it, and also, we're spending time in the Caribbean, and we're coming back going, this is, no, I'd rather sit by the sea and eat my fish as opposed to a piece of, some froth and listen to... No, it didn't work. It didn't do it for me.
And actually, your business is so brilliant, Citizen Femme, because I'm sure that it helps people not have overrated expectations because you have got such brilliant writers who go and experience it. Is that why you came up with the idea, so that you would give people that insider tip?
It wasn't because of the Fat Duck. That came after, but... it came about because I went on a girls' trip to Istanbul. I stayed in a hotel, which I won't name, because it was just very disappointing. We're spending decent money on a good experience. And I thought, actually, who do I ask? Where do I go? And I've come from PR, and I've come from hotels, so I understand those industries. I would probably ask a friend, or I would scour through social media and see where looks cool. Where would I go? And that's basically where it came from. It's meant to be your best friend that's actually going, do you relate to me? Do you get where I'm coming from? We are your friend telling you, actually, this is going to be worth your time. Luxury is also your time as opposed to how much you're spending. So if you've got those 10 days off, this is how you should spend it.
Yeah. And it really is the most amazing source. So if anyone listening to this podcast does not know it, they need to know it.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. And talking about Istanbul, we have a new hotel in Istanbul that's just opened last year, the Peninsula in Istanbul.
Amazing.
On the Bosphorus.
Okay.
It is absolutely fantastic.
Istanbul,
you must
is incredible.
go. Yeah, it's my favorite city in the world. Yeah. I love it. But when you've had your child and you need a little escape,
I'll be back.
It's a very easy place to get to.
Very.
And that whole east meets west is, but the hotel itself is actually really fantastic.
Brilliant.
So let's go on to food and drink. We've talked about the fat duck and your, disappointment, but what do you like eating? Where do you like eating? Let's just talk about food and drink. It's so part of travel.
Hugely. London, my go-tos would be La Petite Maison.
Yeah.
Which is always flawless. Service as well as food. Everything from the lighting to the ambience to the level of sound. I mean, everything is just flawless. Date night to Roka on North Audley Street, which I adore. If you can get your way into 5 Hertford Street, they have the best pistachio ice cream in the world. Have you ever had it?
Do they know? I haven't.
Oh my gosh, the top floor, the food is generally brilliant, but go for the pistachio ice cream. It's sensational.
I love the chocolate ice cream there because it's the same as it was at Annabelle's when Birley's father owned it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a chocolate mousse. It's brilliant. But it is so delicious. I can't find it anywhere. I really want the recipe. They'll never
the
do
Birley
it.
chocolate itself, because they give the chocolates as well, which is incredible. And now he's opened his own store, the Birley chocolate store in Chelsea. And that is the ultimate gift. Yeah. So Easter, birthdays, Christmas, you just have to give those chocolates.
I just love that cafe there as well on Elliston Street. Oh,
exactly.
Chelsea Green it is, isn't it? Yeah, it's fantastic.
And that's like my London favourites.
Yeah.
Because I spend so much time between St. Martin and London, this was my first discovery. Actually, when I went to St. Martin for the first time to visit my now husband's family, discover the place where would be a partial home for me, the first place he took me to was a place called Pinel.
Oh.
So you take a boat or a dinghy from the closest bit of land, 15 minutes or so, and it's a natural reserve island. And there's a little restaurant there called Karibuni, which actually in Swahili means welcome, because the owner spent a lot of time in Kenya. So that was just a lovely coincidence. But it's natural, it's authentic, it's beautiful, it's rustic, chic. It's exactly what you would want from the Caribbean.
Fresh fish.
Fresh. You swim out of the boat to get to the restaurant. You go into the water to pick your lobster.
Oh, wow.
And they've got those little birds flying around everywhere, and you feed them sugar and they take a nap. I mean, it's so romantically rustic. And that's probably one of my favorites, which is a lovely just boat ride across. Is that
only open at lunchtime then, if you have to swim into it?
Yes. So they bring in all the reserves for the day, and then they close by, I think, 6 or 7 or something, by sunset, which is amazing.
Amazing.
Perhaps we've done, it's very popular, but Italy's always a great place for memorable food. They just do it so well.
Yes, they really do.
We would drive through Italy a lot before children. So on a special birthday for my husband, we booked a restaurant called La Calandra. La Calandra.
Where is that?
In Padua.
Oh, really?
It's one of the top 50 in the Pellegrino list. And we flew into Venice. We drove to Padua. I don't even remember what was on the menu.
But you just remember
But I just remember it being so sensational. We were the last people there before they closed up. We sat with the chef and the waiters because it was so brilliant. And they were so warm. And these huge kind of like fishbowl wine glasses, which I love so much.
Oh, yes. Fantastic.
And it was such a memorable meal. That particular trip, we then drove all the way to Florence. And actually, I urge anyone to do that. Driving through Italy is just amazing. I did that on my honeymoon as well. Driving through Italy is the best thing to do.
Isn't Florence your favourite city?
It's one of my favourites. Anywhere in Italy is just magical. We went to Borgo Santo Pietro on our honeymoon, and then we drove through Pisa, and all those little towns were just magical.
There's a really lovely new hotel in Tuscany called Castelfalfi.
Yes.
Have you been?
I haven't, but one of our writers has been, and it looks incredible.
It's really lovely. It's in a beautiful old borgo.
Yeah.
So it's very, medieval, but the hotel is brand new. And the service is just incredible.
Yeah.
And they have an amazing thing. I went at Christmas, just before Christmas. They have a wonderful pageant at Easter and at Christmas time. And it's perfect for children. Although it's not a children hotel, it's brilliant for families.
It's enough to do and see and entertain yourselves.
And the Italians are wonderful with kids anyway.
They're very, very good with children. That's probably the best place to visit with children.
Yes. I remember when I went to the Costa Smeralda with our son when he was very little. And the pasta cost, God knows what it was at the Romazzino. And he only ate like 2 spoonfuls. And I was thinking, oh my God, please eat more. Yeah. But most places in Italy, they will just cater for a child.
Anything. They're so welcome because the child rates are also going down. They can't afford to have children. We were in a taxi and I said, you guys are so welcoming and you're so warm to children. What makes you so different? And they said, we're not having enough children here because the government does not support families. You don't get maternity leave and you don't get all of that. So actually the rates of the population is not growing as much. So when children come, they're so welcome. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was wonderful.
How fabulous. Let's go on to the next travel secret. What is your best insider travel tip?
Outside of wearing comfortable shoes, there is one app that has served me so well on all of my travels, mostly since having kids and traveling with them. I will inevitably end up at a pharmacy having to buy something for a cough or a tummy, or something. Always we are at a pharmacy on any given trip. And I can't read the instructions in another language. So Google Translate, where you take the picture and it translates it.
Oh.
So I know what's in it, how many doses to give for anything. Even if I go to like a tourist attraction and there's a statue and I want to read what it says, I take a picture of my phone and it Google translates it. So I know exactly what it says.
What's that app called?
I think it's Google Translate.
Oh, it's just the Google Translate.
Yeah, so it's an app. Yeah. But you take a picture and it translates everything. So I found it useful for medicine.
That is a very, very good tip.
Very useful.
And my tip back to the listeners is make sure you read Citizen Femme, because wherever you're going, there will be a writer who has been,
pretty much,
who will give you tips on restaurants, how to get there, what to wear. It's just brilliant. So
the what to wear is a big one, actually. You never know what you're going to pack.
Well, I'm the world's worst packer. I'm absolutely disgusting. And when we were chatting earlier before we started, and you said you'd spend half the time in the Caribbean, that's where home is. The loveliest thing about having a home is that you don't have to take clothes because you've got those clothes there.
I'm a rubbish packer. I try to plan it, and then inevitably it gets dirty so quickly. So white linen is always a disaster. So it won't last 5 minutes. But actually, what's appropriate to pack where you go? What does someone wear in that restaurant? What's in Dubai? What's necessary?
Yeah, so definitely my top tip to Citizen Femme. Citizen Femme. What is your most poignant travel experience?
Although I've travelled a lot, I always lived in London. And I was never sheltered as such because we went out and I travelled and it was an open upbringing. But it was always in London. I studied in London. My schooling was in London. Everything was here. And I always wanted to be an actor. So when I graduated, I got a place in an acting school in New York called Lee Strasberg. And at 21, I got up and I went, with approval of my family, all that kind of stuff that comes along with it. And I went by myself. So firstly, there was an element of solo travel.
Yeah.
Just freeing your wings, the freedom element. I went there, I think it was like January 4th. It was freezing, absolutely freezing. And people, no joke, it was skiing down Madison Avenue. That was the first thing I saw. I'm like, where am I? This is crazy. The last time I'd been to America, because I'd mostly done Europe actually, was when I was like 10 or something. So it was a fair bit before. And that for me changed me as a person. I came back after a couple of years and I remember my parents gone, where's our baby gone? You've grown up, because it just changed me. I think I left at a time where I didn't get fed up of New York. Yeah. I left wanting more because it's like so many places you can get tired of a place. But I was 21 years old. I had enough freedom to not go nuts, but just savor and enjoy the place for what it offered.
And you were old enough at 21.
I was old enough, exactly, to not go bonkers. And I was in an acting school, so I was doing what I loved. I was doing short films and a bit of theatre and making friends and just immersed in the entire creative thing that I love so much. Storytelling.
Yeah. So
I would do everything from Irish pubs to fancy restaurants to road trips to, anything. And I think just the element of freedom, creativity, New York opened my eyes to so much because it's again, much like India, it's an attack on the senses. It's so indulgently bonkers, the city. And I don't know if this is true, but it's the only place in the world that's built on granite.
Oh.
Which is why it's so electric.
Oh, really?
There is a real electricity in the air that it's the city that never sleeps. And that's why it's called that, because of that.
The electric
vibrations. Yeah. And I think that trip for me changed me completely because it opened my eyes to what I love, what I want to do. I just experienced watching people, the rat race, ultimately chase their dreams.
Do you go back to New York now?
I do, not as often as I would like to, but I'm maybe there once every couple of years.
Have you got any top tips for New York?
We just did an event there in October at this little hidden restaurant, which I loved, called Le Veau d'Or. Oh. Very authentically New York restaurant. And you know it when all the locals are there, like every week. Superb. The food was sensational.
Where is that in New York?
Upper Midtown somewhere, north of Central Park.
Right.
I get the exact address. Le Veau d'Or is amazing. Bemelman's bar is an absolute hidden gem. It's brilliant for a martini, if you love a martini. And just generally walking, exploring. I did that so much. You can't get lost. That's the one thing it's a grid, so you're never going to get lost.
In New York,
I walked tons.
Yeah.
I haven't explored much of Brooklyn yet because when I was there, it wasn't happening as much as it is now. But I would love to do more of Brooklyn. But that trip for me, living somewhere, I urge, traveling solo if you can, just for your own freedom. Brilliant. It changed.
My sister went to the Lee Strasberg School.
Amazing.
And she went in very early 80s. And she lived in Washington Square, around the West Village. And it was very dodgy then. It really, really was. But she had the best time. She said she used to walk through Washington Square every day. And when I went to stay with her, I remember seeing on the first day I was there, 3 handbags being snatched. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Like London now then.
Yes, I know, exactly. But she absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And she did the Actors Studio as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's amazing. I lived on 41st and 2nd, Tudor City. So right between the UN and Grand Central. And even just walking into Grand Central, I'd get a coffee and just sit and watch people. So fun.
Yeah. It is the city that never sleeps.
It is. And then we would have, because we were by the UN, there was the water just next to our building. Me and my roommate at the time. And so the 4th of July fireworks were just there. Magic.
Yeah, fantastic. My sister's birthday is actually the 4th of July.
Okay.
So she said she had a best birthday every year.
Because
it was like they were celebrating her. She had the best time.
Yeah.
So finally, I asked you to bring a photograph that sums up travel and how you feel about travel. Can you just show us the photograph and tell us a little bit about that photograph?
I can show you the picture. The one thing which is integral to me is travel. And now I have kids, I take them, they've been on 50, 60 flights already and they're so little because I just think the learning they get, interactions is so important. So there were a few with my kids, actually, I thought like I took her to the Vatican. And, she had no idea what was going on. But just to be there amazing. And see and witness everything. But this is one marriage, pre-babies, anything. And it's actually going back to the Kenya trip. When I landed in the Maasai Mara, and it's the welcome where the Maasai men are jumping up and down. It's their traditional welcome dance. But it was and the one thing about Kenyans is the hospitality flair is not there, but you will never get hospitality like that and warmth like they have. Nothing compares, nowhere in the world. Beautiful. So that particular picture, I have it in my flat. My sister has it in her place, because it evokes so many wonderful memories. And that particular picture was just, it was very memorable because of the conversations I had with them, that kind of welcome, the local culture.
And the picture itself is beautiful. And the colours are amazing. Yeah.
My family laughs at me because they're like, that's how you dress for a safari. But again, it's, it's a picture. It's
a brilliant, brilliant picture. And it sums up wonderfully the whole essence of travel and getting under the skin of a destination and experiencing it. So before I let you go, what's next for Sheena? Where are you going next? And what's next for your empire?
Oh my gosh, how long do you have left? We're just at the starting point because I think travel is absolutely booming. It's not post-COVID, it went nuts. So there's a lot that we want to do with the magazine. There's a lot of voices, a lot of people who are enjoying what we're doing. So we're doing a lot more events, reader events. We've got big events. We're doing the future of luxury travel, which we're hoping to, predict and trend now. That's on the Citizen Femme front. So there's a lot happening there. On a personal front, on the acting front, I've just finished a TV series for ITV, which is really exciting.
What was that called?
Code of Silence.
Oh, wonderful.
Which is really exciting.
Great.
Now I'm out for a little bit until the new baby comes. And travel, admittedly, is a little paused until I can travel again in the summer. But my next big trip is actually Guatemala.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm very excited about.
So that will be once babies come?
Yeah. Autumn. And in the middle, smaller trips. But I'm going to tone it down for a little bit. Focus on babies, focus on work, and then...
And the hotel?
And the hotel's, I mean, that's ongoing and that's really exciting. That's another beast of business to manage. And the hotel industry in London is so exciting. I mean, it's competitive because there's so much happening and so many new openings, and even the food scene is electric. So that's an ongoing, exciting project.
You are so busy. And I can't even believe that you're having another baby, as well as all those other things. It's absolutely fantastic. And it has been a joy and delight to hear your travel secrets and to go around the world with you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.